So we are still in fifth Pirke, Mishnah Vav. The 10 creations that were Ben Hashem Ashod. That means the very last 10 things that were created at the time of creation. So Rambam explained that what it means is because, as a general rule, Torah teaches us that miracles are not the way we would think. Even miracles are somehow fit within what we call the nature of the world. It has to be a natural phenomenon that is under certain conditions, certain things could happen. Right? This was unfortunate. I shouldn't say unfortunately. I mean, I guess what needed to happen happened. I don't know, but I was very excited. 2 years ago, they had the particle accelerator go online in Europe. Remember? We're building it for over 20 years. Right? It was an unbelievable project. They had a tunnel 170 feet below the ground, some 17 miles long, a circle, a tunnel. You could imagine a tunnel that train could go to. They were shooting protons and electrons at each other. They were hoping to capture what they wanted to call God particle, meaning matter as it was being formed. If I could translate it into our terminology of what Ramban, the way he explains how the world came into being, tohu vavohu, when matter, Hashem formed matter originally, Ramban says, before it came matter, it was on a status, it was a quasi-matter that could turn into anything. It could turn into a matter, become a rock or become water. That's prior to different, stable matters that we have. Now the point is that at that stage matter, or whatever you want to call it, it's between energy and matter, is very unstable. And they had these cameras and computers that they were going to measure it. They said the length of time that it would stay in that state was 1,000th of a millionth of a second. And they had the machinery to record it, to see its reaction and everything, to be able to. They were very, very hopeful. There was a lot of noise. It was August, I remember. I think it was August of 2011. At any rate, but once he went online, they did hundreds of experiments a day. They were hoping that out of thousands of experiments, a couple of them will yield some results. Unfortunately, or what I should say, unfortunately, they didn't have any results that they could deal with. So the point being, that means at a certain stage of how this world works, now science has not been able yet to, for example, that stage we were just talking about it, the stage of it being formed into a stable matter. Science has not been able to figure out how that works. But even in that status, Torah is teaching us, Ramban is telling us, Rambam here, that it has a natural action and reaction. If sometime we will be able to, our knowledge and our expertise and our technology will be able to deal with that, we will understand certain things, we will explain certain things for us. So what we call miracles are fit in within that realm of nature. That's what Mishnah is saying. Asara, there are 10 things that were created at Ben Hashem Ashod. That means Hashem formed them that there should be a natural world, a world of what we call action and reaction, a world of what the science calls trial and error. What it responds to, how it responds, different situations, different things. Right? So it becomes a natural phenomenon. Up to late 90s, medicine was a little bit puzzled by stomach ulcers. It didn't respond to medicine the same way everybody. They didn't know what to do. Some people did give it, some people got worse. The medicines they had, it wasn't working. The procedures they had, so you may call it something that it's not normal. We don't understand. But the truth of the matter is that in the later 90s, they figured out there are 3 different types of ulcers. What we call as one disease, because the symptoms are all the same. There are lesions inside the lining of the stomach. The root causes could be 3 different things. 3 different things. One of them was a bacterial, caused by certain bacteria. So antibiotic took care of it. Something that before that nobody would have thought that, look, I have ulcers, what does antibiotic have to do with anything? So now they have ways of determining if it is that type of ulcer, it's the easiest to treat.
There's a name for it.
Okay. So, but this was only in the late 90s.
H. pylori.
Right? That was only in late 90s. All right. So you better. So that means that when we understand how the teva, what the Mishnah says here, what that which Hashem put into the action and reaction of the thing, if we figure that out, so obviously we have ways to deal with it. Before we figure it out, it doesn't mean it's not there. It's not a phenomenon that transcends nature. There's a nature in everything. Every miracle has a certain part and a certain level and a certain realm. It's natural. And once we understand that, so okay. Now, says Rambam, the next thing that is mentioned by Kitab, the fact that there was a written thing. So, he had Torah HaKetuva lefanav yitbarach. Torah was ready. Before the Shabbat of creation started, Torah was already ready. כמו שאמר, ולא נודע איך הוא, והוא אמרו, ותנה לך את לוחות האבן. I will give it to you. That means it doesn't need to be written. It's already ready. Aseret HaDibrot was ready. Torah was ready. So that means the interaction that Torah has, how we know Kabbalistically that Torah is the blueprint of the world, and even sometimes Gemara says that the power that Torah has given to mankind, it interferes with the natural phenomenon of this world. Gemara in Sanhedrin says that when a person, certain age, we say bar mitzvah at age 13, a person becomes responsible, becomes adult. And it's very clear from Gemara that it goes hand, and you see that also, it goes hand in hand between, let's call it emotional and mental maturity and physical maturity. You see around early teens or preteens, when it comes to girls, they go through a spur of growth. Right? All of a sudden, 6 months ago, you looked at him, you looked like a kid. Now, it doesn't look like a kid anymore. The voice has thickened if it's a boy, and the facial hair starts to show. It's just different. But the truth of the matter is, if you think about ourselves, you see our mindset also changes very quickly around that age. Physical maturity goes hand in hand with mental and emotional maturity. It goes hand in hand. It's the same thing. Gemara says the fact that you see girls physically mature earlier, that means even emotionally and mentally they mature a little bit earlier. At around age 5, a boy and a girl are more or less same maturity in their mind. But when it comes to age 11, the girl is different than the boy. She's already further than him. That's why you have at age 12, we say they're considered responsible, they have enough maturity to be responsible, etc. That's right. So, now going back to us, so Gemara says when Bedin makes a certain year ma'uberet, that affects how maturity will come about. Right? It was up to Bedin to decide if this year has an extra month or not. So now, all of a sudden, this year could be 30 days longer. So all those bar mitzvot could be pushed off for 30 days. So therefore, I'm sure you've heard this type of riddles. They say twins. twins born together. How could the older twin become bar mitzvah later?
1
You
month
heard it?
later,
Yes,
is born Ben Hashmashot.
that's right. The older twin, let's say, the older twin was born in on Adar, 29th of Adar, right? And the other one was I want the older twin to become bar mitzvah later. Right. We have Adar Shani now. That means in a regular year, in a leap year they were born. In a leap year, the older twin was born on the last day of first Adar. The younger twin was born after Shekiah, some half hour later, let's say, which was on the first day of second Adar. When the 13th year comes around, if it's not a leap year, the first one was born the last day of Adar. The younger one was born the first day of Adar. So his bar mitzvah is a month earlier. His bar mitzvah is so that means the decision of Chachamim will affect how they will mature. It will affect how they mature.
So we would kill him if it's mechuyav because of that.
That's right. It could come to that.
No,
Although it's very, very unlikely.
Hypothetically.
That's right. All those things, right? Or fasting. Let's say, is he obligated to fast on Tani Tester? This one, yes. That one, no. All those things.
Even though he's older.
Well, that's correct. His maturity takes longer. So, this concept of Torah also existed within the creation of the world. Torah was not written when it was given to Moshe. Torah existed prior to that. That's and Rambam just said. We learned that we see that from the pasuk. He says, "I will give you the 2 tablets." Not that you have to write it. It's ready. It's already written. The words were already ready. This is also a very, very interesting thing. The actual letters, that this is Aleph, this is Bet, that also existed when Hashem created the world, prior to the end of process of creation. Like by every other language, we understand that it's just a symbol. And they decided that this has to be A. It's a symbol that is a convention. Convention means it's an agreement between the people of that covenant, people that who either Latin or whatever it was. That's what we're going to write alpha, beta, etc. But by Hebrew, here Mishnah is saying that Kitab, the symbols themselves, they carry something. Now we understand. We know that Baruch Hashem now, with the advent of Sefarim, so they've been explained, the shape, the idea each letter carries. Each letter, the truth of the matter is the Chokhmah of Hebrew language is in there. Every letter has a lot in it.
There is a machine that this French scientist was talking about, that there's a machine that when you say a word like Aleph, it gets the movement of the
image.
Yeah, it gives an image, and it doesn't work with any language except Hebrew. And the interesting part is that the Yemenite
pronunciation works the best.
Yeah,
that's very interesting. All right. Now Rambam asks a very amazing question, and let's see if we have enough time to go on. Now, Ulai Tomar, maybe you will ask, I'm sorry, I skipped a line here. Shenemar va'michtav michtav Elohim. That also is mentioned clearly in Torah, that the michtav, the alphabet themselves, is from Hashem. It was not a man-made phenomenon. The letters themselves. Hu charut ala luchot. But Ulai Tomar. Now maybe you'll have a question. There's a question here. Now that I explained to you, all miracles are within natural world. There are somehow they fit within the natural action and reaction of the world. From the very creation. So why are you telling me these 10? everything. What's specific about these 10 that they were saved for בין השמשות? That שלא יכולים לומר שאין שום מופת שהוא שם בטבע הדברים. They didn't come to say that there is never a pure miracle. There could be miracle that transcends and overrides natural. רק אלו, אבל אמר שאלו נעשו בין השמשות לבד. These 10 were created and they fit in within the nature of the world. ושאלים from of those, so בטבע הדברים אשר נעשו בם בעת העשותם תחילה. But there were other things that those miracles happened at the time. ואמרו על דרך משל שיום שני בהחלק המים. Right? These things were later addition, whereas other things were created from the very beginning within the nature. So these things, that means it's on a deeper level. It's on a deeper level. If I could use an example, you have a lot of times you hear about this, that certain programmers, they program a computer program for a company. Now it works the way it works, but they left a backdoor for themselves. Now that backdoor doesn't work within the system itself. It's just an override that allows them to enter. So he says there are other miracles that when you are making the program, you're making it itself. You know what? I'm making the program for the company. Whoever presses this button, this is how you should respond, this and that. But then there is a later addition. These 10 are the backdoors. They are built in within the nature, but they work on a sort of a deeper level. They go more to the mother frame or main frame, whatever you want to call it. It's not on a day-to-day operation. These 10 were not on a day-to-day. That's what Rambam is saying. One example that Chachamim did tell us. When the second day Hashem said there has to be a separation in water, Husam beteva, that is part of the natural phenomena of the water, Sheyachalek Yamsuf leMoshe. Then that there should be Kiryat Yamsuf. So that's put in nature. And not only put in nature in what we call a very natural way. That means, in theory, it could be replicated. It could be replicated. It's within the nature. Vayarden. The same thing when the Yarden, the waters are split so the Jews could cross into Eretz Israel, Yeshua. V'chen le'Eliyahu, v'chen le'Elisha. When Eliyahu and Elisha crossed water. V'yom Revi k'shinoi Hashem Yeshua sam b'torah she'yamod b'zman ploni b'davar Yeshua. And when the movement of the sun and the earth and all those circuits, it was put in within the natural order of things, that sun will stop for Yeshua 36 hours, as we saw. It didn't set the movement of earth around itself, I guess, would a slow, I don't know, or would come to a standstill during that time. So that means that is really part of the natural way of how Hashem created the sun and the moon and the earth. So all those 10 things are naturally part of the natural order. These 10 are a sort of a backdoor, not naturally part of the natural order. They're part of the natural order, that means they're part of the program, but they are later additions. Now we explained that Chachamim say because these 10 were really up to humans whether it's going to happen or not. Shamir Usheretz Katon Chotzev Avanim Hagidolot Ve'uvru Alehem. Shamir is one of the 10, which is what? Which is that a small insect or a worm that it makes a crack, if you will. It makes a engraved line on a rock as it passes over them. And Shlomo HaMelech used it for building Beit HaMikdash. Tzavat, we said pliers, ukeli sheikach v'anapoch habarzel hacham ad she'aseh bo ma she'aseh, is what the blacksmith needs in order to hold the iron, in order to form whatever it is that he wants to be formed. Okay, we shall continue.
I have a question.